James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
America was not founded by weak and timid men who cowered in the face of evil or sat by as danger loomed and let our country go to hell. We are descended from the likes of George Washington, Andrew Jackson, Generals Ulysses S. Grant, Douglas MacArthur, General George Patton. Our ancestors knew exactly what to do with America's enemies. Beat them and beat them good. That's what they had to do.
Welcome, my friends, to the Saturday morning extravaganza, your Saturday morning vibe. If you want to be on the program this morning, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. 800-848-9222. Hoping to hear from Princess Diana this morning, as well as your calls. So much to discuss. What a week this has been. We've had the fall of the Swall. Swalwell bit the dust, no longer a member of Congress, no longer, of course, running for California's governor. We've had the Pope continuing his attacks on Donald Trump, and Donald Trump responded. That set off a furor. It was a week of speeches as well. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas delivered a speech that may be looked upon by historians as one of the seminal speeches by a Supreme Court justice. He was at the University of Texas, the Austin campus, and it was a speech that is being widely reviewed and played in conservative media. Mainstream media may be ignoring it, but he laid down a marker on what progressivism's threats are to the United States of America and the history of it. Fraud continues. The investigations of fraud around the country. California lawmakers have responded by trying to throw members of the new media in jail, a proposed legislation, if they continue to, particularly Nick Shirley, if he continues to uncover how fraudulent the government of California has been. Massive fraud. In fact, some 500, over the last 2 weeks, 500 of these phony hospice operations have been shuttered. Of course, dominating the headlines is Iran and what is happening in Iran. Reports this morning say that Iran's military has reimposed strict control, they say, over the Strait of Hormuz after declaring that it was totally open for business. Donald Trump was asked about that on Air Force One. He made a powerful speech last night at TPUSA. And on the overnight 3, let's revisit what he was asked about, the president, on Air Force One regarding Iran's state that they have reimposed strict control over the Strait of Hormuz.
You told me earlier that everything has been agreed to. Iran was saying something different. So what has been worked out?
Well, he's got to say something different because, they have people that they have to cater to also. I really don't. I'm just doing the thing that's right. I'm just saying it like it is. And we have a situation, I think, that is going to be very beneficial. And the main thing is that Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And that supersedes everything else.
Now, I was a little confused yesterday by the messaging that was coming out. And I stated it. On one hand, you had this idea that Iran says the Strait of Hormuz was completely open, stocks shot up, everyone, yay, yay. And then Donald Trump came out and said, yeah, well, our blockade is still in effect. So how can it be open and the blockade is still in effect? So after doing some digging, found out that Donald Trump was specifically referring to the interaction with vessels coming in that would be delivering goods to Iran. They would still be blockaded, was what he was talking about. But the rest of the traffic, I suppose, if I was reading this properly, and I think I was, the rest of the traffic would be allowed to flow through the Strait of Hormuz. But a blockade would still be in effect for key vessels trying to perhaps service Iran's military interest, etc., etc. The United States Navy still maintaining a naval blockade. Now, both Trump and the Iranian officials had announced that the waterway was open. As of Saturday morning, this morning, the status of the Strait of Hormuz, where Iran has choked the global supply of energy, is still unclear. Their media saying once again, it's under strict control of the Iranians, and that is not what we're hearing from the United States. So I guess the best way to say unclear at the moment. A work in progress. Meanwhile, in Iran, 6 airports have reopened. The airlines in Iran are preparing to start operating domestic and international flights, according to an executive from their aviation sector, including the airport out of Tehran. So, we shall see if things return to a semblance of normalcy or if they do not. Now, I have been also puzzled by the statements that have come from our White House and from the president. You know, we destroyed their Navy. We destroyed their Navy. And I keep asking, well, if we destroyed their Navy, then how are they at all involved in controlling anything with the Strait of Hormuz? So yes, we destroyed their large Navy, but Iran still has what is sometimes referred to as the Mosquito Fleet. The Mosquito Fleet it is a flotilla of very small, fast, and incredibly difficult to track agile boats whose sole mission is to harass shipping. They still have that, apparently. So everything else in their Navy, their large weaponry has been taken out. But these Mosquito boats, which apparently are in hiding in areas in the strait, are still operating. And those are the boats that they're using. Supposedly they have missile capabilities and they have drone capabilities. Why they are still operating and not destroyed, I think, is a question that will come to the forefront, frankly. Is it that we can't destroy them? Is it that you would have to have a gentleman called the show last week to object to the phrase boots on the ground, that in this case it would be in the boots on a ship. Is it that we cannot get to them? We don't know where they are. Why are they still operating? And perhaps that question will be answered in the days to come. But things are still fluid in Iran. Although Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day ceasefire, which was one of the things that was a central point in negotiations with Iran. Their proxies. They want to save their proxies as well as themselves, their proxies being Hezbollah. So, things still fluid in the Mideast. I don't think there's any clear answer as to exactly what is happening, but I do believe that there has been progress made. We will see how it plays out. Certainly, Iran is a lot weaker than they have been. That we can say for sure. And also, then you have this meeting with European leaders. I saw a post on it, someone gloating, oh, look, Europe, France and the UK, they're bypassing the United States. They are inconsequential at this point. Europe and NATO have shown themselves to be totally inconsequential as to what happens in world affairs right now. At least as far as Iran is concerned. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us.
The James Golding Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golding Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golding Snerdley with you here Saturday morning vibe. Let's go to a news report. I mentioned this about the UK. You know, they had about 30 leaders from around the world, including from South America and others in the our hemisphere, that attended this meeting put together by Macron and Keir Starmer. And as they were meeting to figure out how they could effectuate the opening of the Strait of Hormuz, came word that it was open. So it's almost as if events in the world were asking them, why are you even meeting? Why are you here? There was a news report on GB News about it. Cut one from our regular. Let's cut one. This is GB News about the big meeting with Keir Starmer, Macron, and all these world leaders over their want to be players in what's happening in the Strait and with the Iran confrontation.
You may be able to see the cars gathering behind me as a small group of world leaders gather at the Elysée in Paris to discuss reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. This is a meeting that's being co-chaired by Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer. We've seen Friedrich Merz of Germany and Giorgia Meloni of Italy come in behind us, but it's expected that the other 30 or so leaders who are joining will join virtually. There's already been a bit of a rift over whether America should have been invited. Emmanuel Macron said that he wanted this to be a meeting of countries not involved with the fighting, which would, of course, exclude the US. But Friedrich Merz of Germany and Keir Starmer, of course, our Prime Minister, said that the US was welcome to join. Donald Trump paid no heed to that invitation. He's not interested in working with European countries, particularly on reopening the Strait. He said that he could reopen the Strait all by himself, which does make you wonder, what could this meeting come to? If the US isn't involved, is there any point in these leaders gathering today? Perhaps there is. Germany has said that it would be willing to send minesweepers to the Strait of Hormuz to clear the strait and make it possible for commercial ships to pass. But they have said, Berlin has said, that that won't be quite yet. It might not be for a long time. They're a long way from making that decision. As for what kind of contribution the UK could actually make, it's not quite clear. UK naval resources are severely limited, and it's thought that perhaps there's not very much in practical terms that the UK can do to help. That is why perhaps Keir Starmer is putting so much effort into this diplomatic mission in France. And I think perhaps that both he and Emmanuel Macron, who is also facing troubled waters at home, he's a lame duck president, he can't serve another term, and he is very, very unpopular in the Elysée. I think both of these two men are very much hoping that a big diplomatic push and some movement in the Strait of Hormuz could help to distract domestic voters back home from the sagas that they are both facing. I think in Keir Starmer's case, given the pitch and level of this saga, that's a very tough ask.
It's a very tough ask. So here you have leaders that are unpopular in their own countries getting together. Let's not invite America. Oh, maybe we should invite America. We're over there. Let's figure out how to open up the strait or do something. There's nothing that they can do. Now, Donald Trump, you heard a quote from him at the top of the show at TPUSA. He said yesterday there that the strait is open, but the blockade is in full force. That was what we reported earlier. He also talked about NATO, cut 3, and this is President Trump talking about these same European powers, NATO, the NATO alliance, etc., while he was at Turning Point USA.
And now that the Hormuz Strait situation is almost over, I received a call from NATO asking if we would like some help. Thank you very much, NATO. And I told them I would have liked your help 2 months ago, but now I really don't want your help anymore. Because they were absolutely useless when we needed them. But actually, we never needed them. They needed us. They need us. They need us so badly.
Well, I tell you what is going to happen after, however this gets resolved, and we are not resolved with Iran yet. It is not resolved yet. This morning should indicate that. Confusion on whether the strait is open, exactly how open is it. There's still a lot of confusion there. The dust will settle at some point on this, or the drops of water will. And there will be some stability. How long it will take, I don't know. Could be days, could be a few more weeks. It might be longer than that, one would hope not. But after this conflict is in a stable place, there is going to be a serious discussion inside Washington about the United States' role in NATO. And perhaps we are going to look at something momentous. The disbandment of this organization that has lasted the better part of a century. We'll be back. Do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden Snerdley. Bo Snerdley here. Saturday morning, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Your Saturday morning vibe, your Saturday morning extravaganza. We mentioned earlier the Pope. Now, you all know that Donald Trump just pretty much called out in response to the attacks that not just the Pope, but members of the Catholic Church have been making on his administration. You had 3 of these bishops that went on 60 Minutes and pretty much just drew the attack, not only about the war that's going on in Iran, but the Pope has made statements, including saying that God does not hear the prayers of those who wage war. And Donald Trump is not just going to sit back and let people define him and his actions without responding. He responded. And as soon as he responded, it became Donald Trump was attacking the Pope. Not that the Pope Leo, had pretty much attacked Donald Trump. For weeks, he has criticized, and yeah, it was veiled criticism, Trump's policies. He has criticized the United States for actually going after illegal immigration. And Trump finally just said enough. Said the Pope was weak on crime and terrible for foreign policy. And that, of course, and then came the AI image. But immediately, the Pope, Trump owes the Pope an apology. That's what Bishop Robert Barron, a member of Donald Trump's Religious Liberty Commission, said. and others spoke up. You have a former advisor to Biden, liaison to the Catholic Church, John McCarthy. The Pope is so good at staying above the fray. It's not direct. It's not personal. Well, he was not above the fray. He was openly attacking America and America's immigration. Not America. He was attacking the political policies of Donald Trump. Let's just face it and call it what it is, veiled or unveiled. And, of course, people are warning there are 36 states in America where the largest faith denomination is Catholic Church. Some of them, the highest kind of California, Pennsylvania, New York, blue. Illinois, blue. Arizona, Iowa. These are all places where competitive? No, competitive not in terms of congressional districts, but put the political calculations aside. Here's what we know, and I would love to get your take on this, folks, those of you who want to respond. There have been places in the world where members of the Christian faiths have been subject to massacres, and we have not heard a word. There's also been this increased call from the Catholic Church about immigration. One of the things that was noted on that 60 Minutes interview, one of the bishops complained about the drop-off in people coming to Mass among members of the Hispanic community in his particular location. Said there had been a 30% drop-off, and this was terrible. Well, if the Catholic Church is depending on illegal immigration to put people in the seats, then aren't they gaining financially from illegal immigration and all the help, not just the Catholic Church, but members, some of the Catholic Church, but the United Nations as well? There's been a campaign to actually undermine United States law on this. Now, the Vatican is surrounded by a wall, yet they complain about the United States of America's immigration policies. It seems to be a contradiction here. You want your own security. You don't want illegals flooding the Vatican, and you don't accept it. But yet the Catholic Church feels it's okay, members of their leadership, to flood the United States and tell people that it's okay to break United States law. And if the President of the United States raises his voice and says, you know what? No, it's not. Then he's attacking the Pope. I think that it is about, look, I know the political calculations here, but I also think enough is enough. Why do we in this country have to put up with this hypocrisy and everyone's too afraid to call it out? It is hypocritical. Back in the day, and I'm not pretending to be a theologist, I'm not telling you what to think, but I know one thing for sure. We were instructed as in religious matters that unless a law is totally unjust, you should obey the laws of your country. That's what we were instructed in. And even when you think they're unjust, tread carefully. But you obey the laws of the nation. It was basically, without getting too biblical and scriptural, you render unto Caesar what Caesar's. That the concern of religious organizations was for the spirit and for the well-being of the soul. Not to get involved in the politics, the daily grind of politics. The Catholic Church, through some of these bishops, has refused to do that. They are open leftists. Let's just call it what it is. They have chosen a side, some of them, and they are openly leftists, and they push their leftism just like other liberals push their leftism on the rest of on everybody. And they take a moral tone to it. They wrap their leftism in morality. As, this is what, as they define it, being Christian is. But is it? And so I want to commend Donald Trump. Where everyone else is trying to pick him apart, I want to commend him for actually standing up for the United States of America, because that's his job. And it's just, why do we always have to bend the knee to leftism, no matter who it comes from? No more bending the knee to the leftists. They are wrong. At least from our point of view. Now, does that say that the Pope is wrong when he talks about being compassionate to people that are illegal immigrants as well as legal? No, he's not wrong about that, and we should be. Are they wrong when they say that people deserve to be treated with respect, with dignity? Of course they are. Yes. And I totally am in line with everything that not only the Pope, but everybody that is speaking from a spiritual and religious point of view when they want to talk about treating your fellow man with respect, with goodness. That is totally in keeping with how our societies and how we should operate personally. We should try and strive to be good people and to treat other people very well. Does that mean, however, that you have to allow the laws of your country to be trampled over in the process? No. And we should be treating people very well. Look, some of these complaints that are coming in for the ICE detention centers, I take that stuff seriously. Even if we are deporting people, they should be treated properly. They should be fed well. They should be housed well until the moment that they are put on the plane, the train, the bus to take them home. They should be treated in a civil and decent manner. We as a nation must do that. We should have a commitment to do that. Treat people well. Be kind to people. But that doesn't mean that we have to bend the knee and let people walk all over our laws and what the American people have decided is in the best interest for this nation. And I respect the Pope, and I respect all, I do. I have respect. These are areas I don't even feel comfortable talking about because I don't want to risk saying something that could remotely be perceived as being disrespectful. But at the same time, I am so tired of America being disrespected. It's okay. You have all these other things. I don't recall any of these leaders standing up when Iran was killing 39,000 of their own citizens. Did the Pope come out and say to the Iranians, stop it? Not only that, has the Pope weighed in on the way China treats its people? Has the Pope weighed in on how Russia treats its people? I know he's weighed in on the Ukraine situation. The Pope before, and I'm not trying to knock the Pope, but I mean, there are Christians that are being massacred by radical Islamists all over. Has he weighed in on that? Why single out Donald Trump and the Trump administration for taking an action that potentially could benefit the world, which is ridding the number one sponsor of state terrorism in the world of their ability to commit terrorism, which affects the entire world, or have nuclear weapons? Why focus on that one to make a stand? And that is what a lot of people are questioning and don't understand. Why? It's like the Catholic Church leadership wants to pick a fight with Donald Trump, just like every other leftist group around the world does. I guess to signal virtue, maybe. See, we don't like Trump either. We're going to take some calls. People want to talk about this.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, Bo Snerdley with you. Princess Diana will be here a little bit later on in the program. Can't wait to catch up with her. You know what we're going to do? She just let me know that she wants to talk about Justice Thomas. I was going to bring that up. I'm so glad that she does too. So the third hour, we are going to talk about this remarkable speech that Justice Clarence Thomas made this week. I'm telling you, I think this speech will go down in history as one of the greatest speeches ever that we have heard from a Supreme Court justice. Ketanji Brown was out making her own speech. It'll be quickly forgotten. Also, we have people on the telephones. I do want to get to some calls. A lot of people want to talk about this business with the Pope. In fact, let's start in New Jersey with Nisandra. Nisandra, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, James. James, do you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Oh, great. I want to tell you, I feel so passionate about what I'm about to say. First of all, I feel that, you know, everyone has a purpose on this earth. Donald Trump, he's doing his purpose, and he's doing it very well. His mission is almost completed. Now, the Pope, he can do something else. As you said, there's a whole window open, and we need the Pope now to focus on the evil that's going on in this country, like Iran. But James, in China, it's also terrible what they're doing. 200 hospitals have already said, in a week and a half, you can have a transplant. You have to question where are those organs coming from. They're not coming from the right way. So I want to say that if this Pope could put his energy into the evil that's going on in this world, and instead of fighting Donald Trump, what a wonderful world this could be with his support.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Thank you, Sandra. Let me just add to that. We have in this nation, Planned Parenthood has been exposed for chopping up, dismembering, and selling baby parts. I've never heard, yes, and the person that actually blew the lid on it, California, tried to put him in jail because he told what was going on in these Planned Parenthood centers. Now, I've never heard a Pope stand up and call out Planned Parenthood, call out Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, the rest of who was president, and the rest of the American left for doing and allowing this evil to permeate not only this country, but they try to spread it around the world. Have you ever heard anything from them about it? But no, we get this criticism of Donald Trump. Lady Benedict on fire this morning, sending me they're silent on Christian prosecution and abortion. Also, Lady Benedict says if the Pope still lived in Chicago, he'd have to get out of there because of the crime. How about that there are less people in the seats because she's a practicing Catholic, because we're disgusted with what the church failed to do with their scandals in the past, and because we know they support illegal immigration. Catholic Charities works against our laws. Women are getting stoned. Gays are being thrown off rooftops over there in Iran. Is the Pope cool with that? So there are a lot of people that have a lot of thoughts about all of this. Chris is calling in from the Catskills. We've got 2 or 3 minutes here. Chris, good morning. How are you?
Morning, James. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
I think it's an interesting news story. You know, Trump has a very unique set of communication skills that are somewhat quirky, but have proven to be very successful for him. And, you know, I think obviously Trump can be his own worst enemy at times by saying things when he should really just keep his mouth shut. When I was in politics as an elected official. I had a Republican colleague of mine that I sat next to and was across the aisle and was on a couple committees with, and I was frustrated and fretting over some drama that was going on in the Democratic caucus because I was one of three moderates in a caucus of progressives, and a lot of drama was going on in that caucus. And we were talking in the parking lot of the government building where we worked, and he said to me, look, I've been in this business for a while. My experience is that 99% of things die on the vine. If Trump had kept his mouth shut and not said anything, this news story would have died on the vine in a day or two.
Let me tell you something, Chris. I hear you, but I couldn't disagree more fervently. It is about time that an American president stops and stands up to this intimidation from the left. Okay? These leaders of the world do everything they can to placate all these leftists internationally, and usually that's what we run on, fear. Oh, just let it go. Oh, just let it go. I'm glad that this president doesn't let it go. I'm glad he's caught. This Catholic Church under this leftist leadership has politically, I'm not speaking about what they do spiritually, I'm all fine with that. And not only fine with it, I'm in awe of it. But this leftist ideology is allowed to be used and to attack with a political bent, and everyone's just supposed to sit down, shut up, and bow down. No. It's time for us to stand up and say, this is not right. Why don't you obey the laws of your country? Why do you continue to try to undermine the United States of America? They're coming at us politically. Some of these leftists using Christianity and using morality as if they own the high ground on it, and they do not. And I'm glad we finally have a president that is speaking up and stopping this from occurring unanswered. So I want to applaud Donald Trump for taking it on. Head on. It's about time, and it's, in fact, long overdue. Clean up your own house. Put the fires out in your own house before you start trying to put out the fires in America. How about that one? We'll be back.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends. Hour number 2 underway. James Golden, Bo Snerdley here with you. It is the Saturday morning extravaganza, your Saturday morning vibe. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. We will get to phone calls as quickly as possible in this hour. People are still holding and want to talk. I want to introduce in this segment some other things that we should or can discuss, along with everything else we have been discussing. This was tax week in America. Many of you have ponied up and figured out what you owe to the federal government or what is coming back to you. I just want to play a few things to get two things that we can get started on that. Number one, cut 17, Matt. This is just the Florida waitress. This is happening in many locations around this country. A Florida waitress interviewed on, of all places, PMS Now.
It's made a very big difference in my life. I've added a lot of money for me. I was able to send my grandson some money. I get to live my life a little easier. I can eat better. Life is just so much more better because I have extra money in my pocket at the end of the day.
That is because of the big, beautiful bill that was passed and the no tax on tips. You have Democrat governors, like I understand Spanberger is now refusing to allow people to take deductions on their no tax on tips, et cetera, et cetera. So you have the no tax on tips. There was a congressman, I played his soundbite during the week, who one of his constituents got a $12,000 refund. They work for tips, the couple, and it is making a dramatic difference in the lives of people. Now, you're not going to hear it widely reported, but it is. And then you have Democrats like this guy that's running on the Democrat side for the Texas Senate, who continues to say that only the rich are benefiting from it. But the evidence is in people's pockets, number one. And then you have Philadelphia. Philadelphia is talking about imposing a new ride-share tax on people in Philadelphia. Their mayor, Shirley Parker, was angry because people are actually criticizing her ideas for taxing them in Philadelphia. Cut 6, Matt, this is Philadelphia Mayor Parker reacting to people criticizing her plans to impose even more taxes on them.
How dare you tell me, as mayor of this city, to tell the people in this city that we cannot and should not enact what is one of the most limited powers that we have, and that is to decide how we will drive revenue to the school district of Philadelphia.
How dare you criticize me? How dare you criticize us for wanting to tax people more? You have Mondami and Hochul in New York planning more taxes and implementing more taxes on the wealthy, they say. By the way, this mayor in Philadelphia, let's just take a brief back. Last year, at an Eagles game, Cut 7 leading the chant for the Philadelphia Eagles.
E-L-G-S, Eagles! Let's go, Birds!
Play that just one more time, please.
E-L-G-S, Eagles! Let's go,
E-L-G-S-E-S. L-Jesse's. The mayor can't even spell Eagles. Leading the chant. But yet she gets mad at her constituents, mad at people opposed to her raising taxes. How dare you tell me not to raise your damn taxes? Okay. There is another one. Let's briefly go through this. Cut 11. Last year, this time, we were talking about Kilmar Albrego Garcia. Chris Van Hollen goes down to El Salvador to sit with the guy, have sips of margaritas or whatever they were drinking with him. And it's been a year. He was on MS Now gloating over his trip. Cut 11.
Well, Chris, you're right. It will be 1 year ago tomorrow that I met with Kilmar Abrego Garcia in El Salvador, and I was able to call his wife, Jennifer, and tell her he was still alive because nobody had had any communication with him, not his mother, not his lawyer. And when I came back, of course, the Trump administration was furious, and the president himself, said this was outrageous. I will say there were even some pundits among Democrats who were sniping from the sidelines. But I do think that the lesson 1 year later is that standing up to Donald Trump has made a big difference.
Really? Okay. Proud of it. The Democrats will put illegal immigration and legal immigrants above everybody else. That is the big difference. Okay. Let's go a little quick visit into the Swalwell case. We all know that Swalwell is who he is, and Democrats are still trying to run away from it. Supposedly, they didn't know anything. Supposedly, they didn't know anything. Cut 22. Pam Brown was speaking with Representative Sam Liccardo, and this is what Liccardo had to say about it. Cut 22.
So last hour, Democratic Congressman Sam Liccardo of California said this about the Swalwell allegations. Let's listen.
I first heard about the rumors when Swalwell announced his run for governor in November, and knew some political consultants who talked about what we call oppo files, these opposition records that political consultants compile, talking about Swalwell's sexual misconduct. At that time, nobody was talking about rape, as we're hearing now. It was not sexual assault, but clearly sexual misconduct, abuse of his position. And there's no question, I think, as Senator Gallego said, rumors about that were going on for many, many years.
What had you heard, Secretary?
I think many of us had heard the rumors as well. Never seen any corroboration, but certainly I think the word had gone out.
They knew, folks. And you can't tell me Hakeem Jeffries was asked about it. He pretends, we didn't know anything. The first thing I heard about it was the San Francisco Chronicle. You're in political leadership, and you're going to tell us you didn't know? You didn't know. I had talked about taxes earlier. In Warren County, Virginia, there is a proposed property tax of 21% on people's property. A town meeting in Warren County, Virginia. This is being echoed in many Democrat quarters all around the country, where this incessant drive to keep raising taxes beyond belief is just, this is what they do. They never talk about cutting. They never talk about cutting their spending appetites. They never talk about actually living within their means. What they talk about, let's just keep soaking the taxpayers. This is a citizen. I don't know this guy's name. Cut 31. Don't know who he is. But listen, and by the way, there were tons of people at this meeting. I just picked one of them because we couldn't play them all. There's one citizen that I just thought was so poignant, but many of them were. Elderly people talked about being driven from their homes. You'd have to sell their homes if this tax increase goes through. Listen to this guy, citizen of Warren County, Virginia, on the 21% property tax increase that liberals in Warren County, Virginia, trying to impose on their residents.
David Jenkins, North River District. Thank you. I don't want to belabor the point that so many people have already made, but I married, have 2 kids, one on the way. I pay my taxes. I tithe at church. I work 6 days a week. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I got like 75 cents in my bank account right now because that's just what life requires sometimes. I don't have extras. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I know for a fact the house we live in now, I think it's a little too small for a 3rd kid on the way. And I like Front Royal. It is a breath of fresh air. I love the mountains. I grew up here, and I really do appreciate Front Royal. But there's no way that the house we live in can be sold for the amount that it's assessed for now. Even before the new tax hike, it would be impossible. If I can't sell the house for the amount it's appraised for, I don't know why I should get taxed for it, for sure. We need a bigger house for a 3rd kid. I pray. I know God always provides, and that's who we're leaning on the most. But I'm 39 years old. I do everything I can. Just please consider that. I think that's really all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. People are being driven out of their homes and put in despair by these high taxes that liberals continue to just demand. And then you have mayors like this woman in Philadelphia who gets angry at people that actually criticize being forced to pay higher taxes. It's just amazing, folks.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden here, Bo Snerdley. I said I'd get back to the telephones. We would, and so we will. We shall right now. Let's go to Brooklyn, New York. Viviana has been holding almost an hour. Good morning, my Viviana. How are you this morning?
Good morning, my dear Bo. I couldn't agree with you more about what you've been speaking about the Pope and the President's stellar action, eliminating the threat. But I called up because I haven't heard this. I don't know if the press even suppressed it. I don't know. But there was a report on Mandami having a meltdown on Easter Sunday. And I've been so grieved in my spirit, Bo. What happened, not allegedly, there was a reporter there. Mandami had a private gathering in a mosque on Easter Sunday. Some of his supporters, other friends were there. And they were even shocked to hear what Mandami had in comments. Mandami lifted up Allah, which is, hey, that's his Lord. But he had the audacity to disrespect and denigrate my Savior, your Savior, the Savior of many people, Jesus. He actually said he was a fraud and he didn't ever exist. Then, Bo, if anyone of his stature, or rather position, I don't say stature because to me, God allowed him to be in that seat to expose who's who in the kingdom. And if someone had said that about Allah, there would be like mass riots in the streets. So I'm not advocating riots, but I'm advocating that our so-called spiritual leadership in New York City would speak out and stand up for Jesus.
Let me ask you a question, Viviana. I have not heard of this. This is the first I am hearing about it, actually. Were those remarks captured on audio? Are they there? Or is this people reporting what they heard inside, but nobody's playing the actual bites of what he said?
Okay. I'm not sure because it was a private meeting. The way I found out about it is I saw it in my brief, but it says Mandami has a meltdown on Easter Sunday.
Okay.
That's the way I found it.
Let me suggest this. Unless we can verify that this actually took place, let's just hold it in reserve and look for the proof or look for some corroboration that this was said. Don't go off.
I agree, but if it was said, I was like, Lord.
If it were. If it wasn't, it's a horrible slander. And so let's not err on the side of this wasn't said. You know, a lot of times in today's media, let me just tip you to something. A lot of times in today's media, people are actively out pushing disinformation so that they can get a response from people. And then when it's disproven, take all the points from the people that have raised objections to whatever it was. We are living in an age of duplicity. So the first things first, verify something is true before we go off on it. Because if it's not true, it's a horrible slander. If it is true and there's corroboration and it can be verified, then at that moment, if there is a criticism for whatever it is, that's the moment, once it's verified true, to level criticism. I haven't heard it. It would surprise me if Mandami would say something like that, to be frank with you. It would surprise me. Because he's not a dumb guy. And he would understand how his comments would be taken. I would be very shocked, dismayed, if he actually uttered those words. So I think the best and most prudent thing to do is see whether it's verifiable. If it can't be verified, I would strongly suggest that you not give it any attention.
No, and I agree. But like you said, if it can be verified, then it needs to be addressed.
Okay, if. Again, I would be very shocked. I mean, you know what? There's a lot of things I don't like about Mondami's policies. But I think we need to separate that from who he is as a person. And be careful with this. Viviana, thank you. We got to go. James Golden, Snerdley, Saturday morning. Whatever you do, stay right here. Saturday morning vibe, Saturday morning extravaganza continues. I think we're going to take a few more calls here because people have been holding. They want to weigh in on the Pope. They want to weigh in on some of these other things. So whatever you do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to have Dr. Peter Miklos with us again. We talked 2 weeks ago, and he really, wow, what a session. And at the end of discussing America's health care, this is going to be a continuing discussion, I hope, with Dr. Miklos, because we can't get it all in one show, 2 shows, or 10 shows. It's a continuing discussion because it continues. Now, before I bring in Dr. Miklos, I want to play something from the House this week, a House hearing. Representative Greg Cesar was trying to nail R.F. Kennedy Jr. on Obamacare. Let's cut 33. Let's listen in on this exchange.
Have you met with any of the 1.4 million people who have lost their health insurance just this last year from dropping off of Obamacare? Have you sat down and talked to those folks about the fact they won't have their health insurance again?
They're almost all illegal immigrants.
Oh, well, you know what? It sounds like you haven't met with folks like Portia in my district.
We found 1.5 million illegal immigrants illegally collecting Medicaid.
Mr. Secretary, there are people like Portia in Buda, Texas, whose health insurance costs went from $100 a month to $500 a month. People like my constituent Shauna in San Marcos, Texas, her premium went from $250 to $750 a month. Now, $500 a month may not be a lot to you or to some of the billionaires that y'all are talking to, but for these moms with kids, they've lost their health insurance this last year. So have you had a conversation with, how many people have you sat down with that have said, Mr. Secretary, I lost my health insurance this last year. What are we going to do about it?
87% of the people who are on Obamacare are paying less than $96 a month. 54% of the who are on Obamacare today are paying less than $50 a month.
Well and good for us to talk about Obamacare policy.
And by the way,
question is, it sounds like the answer
had 3 chances to make.
We could talk all we want about the past.
Tax credits.
We could talk about.
Why didn't you do it?
We could talk about the past.
Why didn't you do it when you had the power to do it?
Mr. Secretary, just like you, I'm new here. I'm responsible for what's happening right here and now.
Yell at your colleagues.
My question, Mr. Secretary, is: have you met with anybody that's lost their health insurance? And it sounds like the answer is 0.
This is typical of what you get from Democrats. They just they want talking points. They don't want to really solve anything. Let's just do this. Let's just do that. Now, this is one of the reasons we asked Dr. Miklos to come back, because when we were last talking, we talked about people who were losing their health care coverage. And I asked Doctor, please help us figure out what are the solutions to all of this. So, good morning, Dr. Miklos. You heard that dialogue. You heard people losing health care. Health care is in a mess in this country, and it seems that neither party can put together what's necessary to fix it. And I know talking about fixing healthcare is not something that we may be able to do in just a half an hour, 2 or 3 hours, because it's so complex. But where do we start, Doctor? Good morning.
Well, good morning, Bo, and it's great to be on what I call the truth center of radio, and I'm glad that you brought up that clip because, again, it's always out of context. They don't give you the history of exactly what is going on, and the reality is that in this country, we have something called the EMTALA Act, Emergency Medical Transportation Labor Act, which basically nobody is refused care in this country if you go to an emergency room. And if you have a real problem, no one gets turned away based on their ability to pay. So unlike other countries, like people think, for example, in China, that there's a national system or it's communist. No, if you don't have money in China, you don't get care. Or in a lot of countries here in this country, we treat everyone. There are safety nets. And also there are so many middlemen getting a cut in this country, which is part of the problem. Now, getting to the Obamacare in that clip, Obamacare came in and it had the way they made it cheaper and it made it great for the insurance companies. The insurance company got upfront money, but then the patient got a $5,000 deductible. So all these young people and a lot of these people who had these high deductibles with Obamacare never met their deductibles. So then it turned all the doctors' offices, the mom and pop doctors' offices, into collection agencies because they had to go and put people in collection, destroying the physician-patient relationship. Everybody was mad and found out they had these cards without care. So all these young people ended up with their credit ratings ruined because they went into collection, and nobody likes to talk about the nasty little secret that the number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical. So there is a problem there, and the way there are solutions, and part of the problem is it costs a lot of money to practice medicine and to give medicine, and for hospitals too. We don't have tort reform in this country, so that means lawsuit reform. And it's, for example, in some areas in New York and Florida, it's $250,000 to get insurance just to be a neurosurgeon, or $180,000 if you deliver a baby. So all that cost is factored in. Then you have the enormous amount of paperwork that's created, what we call in medical offices, all these uncompensated administrative burdens and theft of services with all this additional paperwork. And then everything you do, you have to get, for example, pre-certification. You want to get a CAT scan, someone had a brain tumor, and then you have to hire somebody and pay them $30 an hour, and then to get a scan could take 2-3 days, but the person is very sick. The other big thing that we need to have is transparency in pricing. Why does it cost $3,000 to get an MRI in a hospital, but I can go to a private MRI center and basically if I say I have no insurance, it's only $300 and you can pay in cash. So just like everything else where you have prices in a grocery store, in a supermarket, whether you buy a car, there needs to become a national effort to show transparency. So that's one of the best ways to have competition. And these other people they mentioned, their insurance went from 100, 200. There's also programs that were set up that millions of people participate in, called these Christian health sharing programs. And you don't have to be a Christian to join it, but it was set up. There's no middleman or insurance person, and they're only about $200, and I know many people who are in their 20 when they turn 26 and they lose their insurance. I told them about it, and they're so happy. And there are these health sharing programs, and basically they negotiate. If you have an appendix, you're not going to end up with a $150,000 bill. They negotiate with the hospital. They get the best rates. They help you get fair-priced drugs and medicines. And these people they're talking about, their insurance went from $100 to $500. There are other private options that you can do. The other thing we need to do is risk adjust a lot of these programs. If you're a smoker, for example, you should pay 20% more for any insurance or coverage that you get. Just like if I'm a bad driver, I pay more. If I'm a doctor who's been sued 3-4 times, guess what? My malpractice will be higher. So that's one of the things that we should be doing to incentivize people to be healthier. In addition, we need to strengthen primary care, because if we have better primary care, the people who are diabetic or the people who are overweight can get access to health care right away, to help them lose weight, to help them with smoking cessation, to help them get their cholesterol and high blood pressure under control. And that automatically will save billions of dollars in the system by having more access to primary care. And people have trouble getting access to care now, because what's happened is that when Obamacare started destroying all the mom and pop practices, hedge funds came in and they bought large groups. So you go into a community, there's a certain health system that controls the 100 internists or the 100 family practitioners. Try to get an appointment. And oftentimes what they do is they push you to a nurse. They're very fine people, nurse practitioners, physician's assistants. You rarely ever get to even see the doctor to get down to the actual issue that's happening. So that has made access to care much harder. Go into any community unless you have the ability to pay for a concierge or a private doctor. And that model started coming up because people couldn't get access to care, couldn't get access to specialists. They tell you 4 or 5 months. When a doctor was private, they would say, come on down. Once they're a salaried employee and they're pushing 30, 40 patients a day, it's very hard to get in a same-day appointment or 5-day appointment. And that's what caused all these urgent care centers to pop up all across the country, because people were frustrated and they would go in, and usually they're more fair priced. And they came in very handy during COVID because they did a lot of the frontline testing for COVID, flu, strep, and people were able, and it was starting to replace health care that you used to have with your mom and pop doctor. But unfortunately, that model, they put us out of business, because between the insurance costs, staffing costs, and everything else, it wasn't possible. So there are solutions, and also an option that allowed to compete with private insurance. I would call it fair care, and you pay into the system. And everyone tries to make out Medicare for senior as an entitlement program. It's not. We paid 2.9%. So if you made $100,000, you paid $2,900 from the day you got your first job, and you've been paying into that system. And everybody complains about the millionaires and how bad they are. A guy who's makes $1 million a year has been paying into that system for many years, 2.9% of that, all these years, $29,000, and they probably never even use it. So we need transparency. Where is all that money that we've been collecting? And that's what DOGE should be looking at. All the money that you collect from Medicare, where is it actually going? Is it actually going into the healthcare system and not making everyone feel bad? Oh, we need to, cut services or cut Medicare. And Medicare is very important. It actually helps a lot of seniors getting the care that they need. In the old days, when people had pneumonia or TB, they didn't seek out care because they would go bankrupt. So it is a good system for seniors. But again, it's not an entitlement system. We've been paying into that system. We also need to expand telehealth coverage for people in rural and poor areas, because a lot of times, sometimes you just need a medication renewal. That was a big problem in the VA system that I've actually seen, where they ran out of their insulin or their psych meds, but the VA centers were closed on weekends. The good news is that the current administration helped that, and they opened up all these different centers so people can get access and actually go to an urgent care center, get your medication, your insulin, your psychiatric medicines. So these are part of the solutions to improve the system.
Well, I need you to just hold there for one moment. We got to take a quick break. But, okay, I got a few things. How do we make some of this stuff actually happen? When we get back, just think about this. Because it's not going to come from Congress. It's not going to come from anyone in... People in the medical profession are going to have to get together and put forth the plans to fix this. And that, I know, involves some self-interest. But it's not going to come from Congress, because they're getting paid by the insurance companies to keep the insurance companies wealthy. So we got that. And then I have a question that came in from Nursey Nurse. On a different matter, but what happens to those who were healthy but now, because of the jab, are seriously injured or unhealthy? Why should they have to pay for more insurance for something that was pushed on them? So I had two questions for you when we get back. James Golden, Snerdley.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And Dr. Miklas is with us, thankfully, and we're going to have him back continually, folks, because as I said, we can't just do this in a half hour, an hour, days. But these are continued discussions. But we have two questions and we have 5 minutes. What happens to those who are healthy now, but because of the jab, the vaccines, they're seriously injured now? They're unhealthy. Why should they have to pay more for insurance when these vaccines were pushed on them? That's one. And the second is, how do we get these changes done? Because Congress is not going to do it. I stand aside and give you the floor, good doctor.
Okay, well, let's first start off that we got emergency authorization for vaccines, and in this country we were pushing for vaccines to fight the pandemic. Other countries were focusing on pills, antivirals, to block viral replication, which blocks every kind of variant. The problem is every time we made a vaccine, this RNA virus kept mutating and it kept changing, so people kept getting sick. For example, in countries like Singapore, Russia, Vietnam, Japan, Turkey, they had favipiravir, which is an antiviral that was developed in Japan, and they were using it, and guess what? Their death rate was a lot lower than ours, and it took us a long time before we had pills. And then they suppressed the use of hydroxychloroquine, and now the studies came out that no, it does not block viral replication, but it blocked the inflammation called the cytokine storm. And they were pushing the study, and they were in veterans, but they gave it to them 3 weeks after they started COVID. Instead of giving it the first 3 days, they showed it suppresses inflammation. So that information and a lot of misinformation ended up killing a lot of people, whereas we should have had access to antivirals early on and immediately, just like when we get the flu. We take Tamiflu, it works great, still works great. It even works for these new bird flus. So that's one of the problems, right there off the bat that happened with that. As far as the COVID injured people, we have a big problem in this country. Another dirty little secret is basically millions of people ended up filing for disability because with long-haul COVID, they have brain fog, they can't concentrate, they get this weird condition in their heart where their heart starts going super fast and super slow. They feel dizzy, tired, headaches, and constantly fatigued, and there is no good treatment right now. There are long-haul COVID centers that have opened around the country. And yes, it's a problem getting coverage when you go and ask and your insurance rejects you when they order certain blood tests to check inflammation levels or COVID titer levels. So that it is a problem in the system. And like you said, one of the solutions is, the privatization. And I'm not going to mention the names of the companies of these health sharing programs because they can always buy ads on your great show, but they exist and they're health sharing programs that people who don't have insurance or are underinsured can get them, and it's very inexpensive because you've gotten rid of the middleman. For example, the insurance companies that are all sitting in Connecticut getting their 30% cut. Nobody gets a cut. It's direct. It's dealing direct, transparency in pricing, and those are the solutions. So there are solutions out there, but more people need to know about them, and basically direct payment to the providers and bringing down the prices and getting rid of the middlemen, just like they did with TrumpRx.org was brilliant. They got rid of the pharmacy benefit managers, which were middlemen. So some medications that were $1,000 a month went down to $250 a month. And again, some people, may or may not like Amazon, but what Amazon's done is great, where they actually have an Amazon pharmacy. And I just looked up some of my medicine, and if I were to buy it now without insurance, it's only $5 a month for my blood pressure medicine. So people need to look at those alternatives. And you're right, it needs to be a private, organized effort. The problem is there are very few private doctors left. They're all working for some larger entity or system because of the damage that was done by Obamacare and putting out the small mom and pop shops around the country.
Wow. Doctor, thank you. You're coming back, please. And we're going to continue these discussions, okay?
Thank you for always getting the truth out, Bo, with compassion and good humor, and getting all the facts out so that people can have some actionable data and make proper decisions. So stay healthy, live long and prosper, think positive, and test negative.
Boom! I love that close. Princess Di's coming up in the next hour. Hour number duo in the can.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It goes so fast. Here we are at hour number trio already. It's almost like we just sat down. Saturday Morning Vibe, glad you're here. If you're on hold, you have such patience, and we thank you for it. And just stay there, because Princess Diana and I are going to end up taking some telephone calls after we have our discussion. And speaking of that, ladies and gentlemen, yes.
It's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
She is in the house with the full court press. Her Majesty, her goodnessness, her wonderfulness, the analysis-ness that we all need and desire each week. And she grants us our wish because she is the most benevolent one. Our very own Princess Diana-ness in the house. Good morning, Your Highness.
Good morning, James. Democracy. It is always so wonderful to speak with you.
Yes, and thank you. I'm looking at a headline here. Joy Reid blasts California Democrats for letting GOP contenders take the lead in their governor's race. It's their fault. Anyway, I'm not going to play it. We have other things to discuss besides the fallen PMS host. So, where do we start this morning, Princess Diana?
Well, I think it's good to start with the questions you were asking at the beginning of your show this morning, which was the confused messaging that you are reading about. And, you were trying to kind of dig down to find out what the situation is in Iran. We had Trump basically declaring that the Hormuz was open. And then this morning, Iran says we're closing it. And so you were basically saying there's a mixed message. And so I thought it would be useful to kind of give a little bit of a status report coming from the Pentagon itself. This was Thursday. And I don't know if you have that soundbite ready from General Dan Regenstein. He's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, if you could play that.
Here we go.
On Monday, 13 April, at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, at the direction of the President, America's joint force began implementing a blockade against Iran under the leadership of Admiral Cooper and the team at CENTCOM. Let me be clear, this blockade applies to all ships, regardless of nationality, heading into or from Iranian ports. The U.S. action is a blockade of Iran's ports and coastline, not a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Enforcement will occur inside Iran's territorial seas and in international waters. In addition to this blockade, the joint force, through operations and activities in other areas of responsibility, like the Pacific area of responsibility under the command of Admiral Paparo, will actively pursue any Iranian-flagged vessel or any vessel attempting to provide material support to Iran. This includes dark fleet vessels carrying Iranian oil. As most of you know, dark fleet vessels are those illicit or illegal ships evading international regulations, sanctions, or insurance requirements.
Okay. Now, I listened to the whole Pentagon briefing, which was detailed. It was specific. It explained everything that's happening and got zero coverage. And so what the General Raisin Kane was explaining with maps, with visuals, was that this is not a U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, even though that is how it's being described everywhere. It is simply a blockade of Iran ships going in and out of their ports. Plus, and this was news made, all of the dark forces, the dark fleet, basically the black market of oil all around the world that American forces are going to stop. And that has been the source of all of Iranian money, real money. And so you've got that happening with the fog of war deliberately by the media, who are not explaining any of this. And so you've got Iran this morning basically saying, okay, we have this blockade, so we're going to close the Strait of Hormuz. And so my response is, oh, really? You and what Navy? There is no capacity to close the Strait of Hormuz, but that is how it's been reported worldwide, that Iran declared the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. It is the U.S. who has the power, the projected power, who is able to enforce its will on Iran and Iran only. Everything else is free to transport through the strait. And so I just wanted to make that very clear, because the media is deliberately not making that clear, exactly what the U.S. forces are doing there. And that is hurting Iran tremendously, along with what our Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said. We have instituted economic fury on Iran, and that we are stopping all of the dark money that is going worldwide. And one of the things that he mentioned, that they are cutting off the money with help from the bank records from all of our new Gulf allies who have been hit by Iran. So we're able to stop Iran's commerce, its oil, its money, and so they are in a world of hurt. And so what we're hearing now is Iran is imploding. You've got forces negotiating with the U.S. who are saying one thing, and then you have other forces who hate those forces who are saying another. And as I say, this is negotiations that are happening publicly until Wednesday, when the ceasefire is scheduled to end. And so that, to me, is what we're hearing, the back and forth of Iran lies and the U.S. strength. And so we're going to see what happens Wednesday. And there's another soundbite that I asked if you could play with Trump last night at midnight on his plane. Do you have that handy?
We have it ready. Here it is.
You don't have a deal by Wednesday when the ceasefire ends. Will you extend the ceasefire, or will you start attacks again?
Maybe I won't extend it. Okay. But the blockade is going to remain. But maybe I won't extend it. So you have a blockade, and unfortunately we'll have to start dropping bombs again.
Okay. So now you have the full picture, in my opinion, with Raisin Kane's statements and Trump's statements of the pressure being applied to Iran, so that, as Trump says, he wants it all. He wants everything. He doesn't want to have any feeling that Iran is winning any of their points. They put their 15 points and their 10 points of what they want. And Trump is basically saying we're getting 100% of what we demand, including what he says is the nuclear dust, which is Iran does not have, nor will ever have, the capacity to make a nuke. And so that is where we are, and I hope that explains to your satisfaction what the status is.
Not only does it explain to my satisfaction what really, thank you, because that does explain it, and it explains why I can't find it in the media, because they're not reporting it
right
from the briefing. And that's been the confusion, and I kept trying to figure this thing out. But now you've also answered another piece of the puzzle. China.
Right.
China. Because China is the largest buyer of Iranian oil, they are being affected by this blockade of Iran, not a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, the blockade of Iran ships leaving in and out. Now, Bingo. China is a key partner with Iran, but so why hasn't China acted? Because China has to hedge their bets. China also has strong ties to Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and they are looking at the longer term relationships, and they cannot afford to become a disruptive. They're kind of taking a hands-off approach in all this, even though they're being affected. They have to be careful about how they move, and Trump knows that, which is one of the things. This entire thing is not just about Iran. It is about China's influence in the world energy markets and China's influence, as well as the Iranian, decapitating Iranians as the number one state sponsor of terrorism and potentially nuclear weapons. It is more than one layer of foreign policy going on here.
You are absolutely right. It is very sophisticated on Trump's part. And, of course, since it's never reported, the American people do not get to see and celebrate exactly what is being done on our behalf, which is amazing. You just had a deal this week between the U.S. and Malaysia concerning the Strait of Malacca, which is the second strait through which China gets all of their oil. So Trump has made military moves on that strait. That agreement with Malaysia is with the Pentagon, and this is a military agreement. So you have worldwide, you started with Panama, where Trump you had the renaming of the Gulf of America. You had two straits. You have all of these geopolitical moves being made by Trump, which are enormous. And you are 100%. The target 100% is China, because they had been making moves on our hemisphere. They had been infiltrating a lot of power levers. And so you had Trump basically saying to Xi that if you help Iran with any, as was rumored, they were going to send missiles, and also that they had helped with some targeting, satellite targeting. And so Trump basically said anybody who helps Iran is going to get a 50% tariff. And according to Trump, she has agreed not to send help with that motivation. And in fact, Trump just tweeted this week, or Truth Socialed, President Xi will give me a big fat hug when I get there, and that is about Beijing. He's got a meeting May 14th through 15th, which yesterday Trump said is going to be special and potentially historic. Much will be accomplished. So a lot of these geopolitical moves that Trump has been doing are targeted for him walking in with all the cards in Beijing, May 14th and 15th, less than a month from today. So you are totally right that China is the key here, and Trump has been amazing in what he's been doing, and it is so frustrating to me to see that the American people really are given nothing but fog of war, quote-unquote, reports from the media, instead of understanding where we are in American strength right now, which is tremendous.
That is amazing. James Golden, Princess Di is here.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Folks, this week, JCT, Justice Clarence Thomas, delivered a speech at the University of Texas in Austin. And it was it concerned the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, our Constitution. It was the Declaration of Independence. It was an amazing speech. And Princess, I have the soundbite that you sent. You want to start with that first?
Sure.
Let's hear it.
Progressivism seeks to replace the basic premises of the Declaration of Independence, and hence our form of government. It holds that our rights and our dignities come not from God, but from government. It requires of the people a subservience and weakness incompatible with a constitution premised on the transcendent origin of our rights.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. And it is being recognized. People are talking about this speech throughout political circles around the country.
Well, they should. And I think that, in my opinion, this speech should be required listening for every American, because it is one of the most beautiful speeches I have ever had the privilege of listening to. And Clarence Thomas is like, a modern day founder. He is an American hero. And this speech, talks about the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence and the founding principles. And I want to read one sentence from the speech which stood out to me. The Declaration is, in fact, along with the Gospels, one of the greatest anti-slavery documents in the history of Western civilization. It did not establish a form of government. That was the work of the Constitution that followed. But it stated the purpose of government. The Declaration made it clear in clear prose that the purpose of government is to protect our God-given, unalienable rights that all individuals possess. And he spends a great deal of the speech talking about his own personal upbringing by his grandfather and how these principles were infused in him early childhood by someone, his grandfather, who said to him that he was not educated, but he taught these principles that were in America and understood by ordinary people because they were so clearly written. And so in this speech, Clarence Thomas talks about and honors the principles of the founding and the biggest threat, which is progressivism, which he correctly says is not progressive at all, but retrogressive. And the cause of some of the greatest ills of the 20th century, especially of the millions of people killed under progressive ideas of Marxism and communism. And so it's a call to America to recapture the spirit of the people who wrote the Declaration of Independence. And he said all of these high ideals are wonderful. However, what really put the strength into it was the last sentence, in which these men pledged their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor. And Clarence Thomas talks about that is what we need to recapture in America. We need the devotion of the people to keep these ideas alive along against this great threat of progressivism, which has infiltrated our institutions. And so not only does this speech call back to the ideals of America and his own experience, Clarence Thomas's own experience living under, terrible segregation, and what his grandparents taught him that carried him through, but it is a call for all of us to go to the mat, to keep these ideas alive, and to give our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, because it's the courage to stand up for these ideas, which are not popular in academia or in many places in government, and that it is up to us to keep them alive. And so I think that this speech needs to be, immortalized and given to every single student in America and every citizen.
The left would never stand for it because it directly contradicts in plain language what they are pushing, their entire ideology of progressivism. But that it needs to be widely circulated and disseminated, not just in this country, but around the world. We're going to continue to talk about that, take some calls as well. That speech by Justice Clarence Thomas, folks, it was a remarkable speech. And I don't think we have ever heard a member of the Supreme Court speak so clearly about this nation and our history and the threat of progressive liberalism. We'll be back.
The James Golding Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. James Golding Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden Princess Diana is here. Let's play cut 28, Matt. And Princess Diana referenced this, and I want to just expand on it for just a moment.
My grandparents, who heroically, quietly, without fanfare, sat my brother and me down at the kitchen table in August of 1955 and committed the rest of their lives to us so that we could have a chance. They told us, we don't have no education. We don't have no education and no chance, but you boys are going to have a chance. But we're going to devote the rest of our lives to you boys. It was their devotion, their love, their dedication to raising us right that has made the difference, not the words, though the words expressed as best they could what they intended to do. Their devotion is what mattered.
That was so powerful, and to me it struck because I could see them, I could hear them. I could hear them because when you talk with black people from the South, as you know, when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time in Alabama in the summers with my grandparents. And my grandparents, my grandma in particular, didn't have much education. But she could write. She would write letters to us. And my grandmother was amazing, my Mama Eula. My Mama Eula would send us little cards for our birthdays every year. We're in New York. We get a card for our birthdays from Mama Eula, and she would write in words like "you cheerin'" and things like. My Mama Eula was amazing, and Clarence Thomas' grandparents are cut from the same mold. You could hear, to me, you hear it in the way it is, but we ain't got no chance. We didn't have a chance, but we gonna give you a chance. We got no education, but we're gonna give you one. The love that his grandparents had to devote, and these were not rich people. Justice Thomas, a lot of people don't know this, did not have a bed of his own to sleep on until he was 6 years old. He slept in a chair. There was no bed for him. He came from real poverty, not make-believe poverty like Gavin Newsom's upper middle class poverty. Real poverty. And the sacrifices that his grandparents made for him and his love of freedom and of what America can be just makes this speech to me so much more profound and so much more beautiful. Princess?
Absolutely. And there's another part of it I'll just read similarly. And Justice Thomas said, somehow, without formal education, the older people knew that these God-given or natural rights preceded and transcended government power or authority. When you lived in a segregated world with palpable discrimination and the governments nearest to you enforced laws and customs that promoted unequal treatment, it was obvious that your rights or your dignity did not come from these governments, but rather from God. Though not a literate man, my grandfather often spoke of our rights and obligations coming from God, not from architects of segregation and discrimination. And there is wisdom. I mean, that to me was such a formative understanding for Justice Thomas, and I am so grateful that he is in the position he's in now and can transmit all of those long lost truths to many people. And so rekindle them, and hopefully we can all keep them alive for posterity.
Wow, amazing. Let's head to the telephones. People have been waiting. Kevin is calling from Niagara County up in New York. Kevin, welcome. How are you?
Good morning to your majesties. Speaking to you on the great hometown 1340 WLVL in the once great Niagara County here in the crumbling Empire State of New York. Hey, I'll make this quick. You know, he like that, huh? Hey, I was christened as a Roman Catholic and also primary school as such, so no one can say I'm Catholic bashing with what I'm about to say. You see, your majesties, today's Vatican is like any typical leftist or so-called progressive, which I call regressive, by the way, state here in the United States or country, and some counties too. You see, this Chicago homeboy Pope much like Pharaoh Obama, right? Chicago, of course, right? Should be addressing the real issues facing the church and happening within the church itself, with the drop in active parishioners. Look around. So many Catholic churches are closing down. And what we're seeing, a rise in both the moderate and radical aspects of a certain religion. You know what that religion is? Of course, Islam. So there, I said that. I don't care what they say, but you know what? It's the truth. And a lot of us, we can handle the truth, right? Yeah. So thank you for allowing me to do this therapy this morning, because I'd have to spend $500 and go lie on the couch and speak to somebody like Dr. Phil. God bless you all. Cheers.
God bless you. Wow.
Well, he mentioned Chicago, and, you know, we have been talking about the meeting with the Pope and David Axelrod, who is, you know, Obama's, you know, strategist. And so a lot of, I think, what has been happening is the Pope dipping his toe into politics on the Chicago side, on the Democrat leftist side. And so that is, he's decided to join politics, and he's going to get blowback for it, and it's going to hurt the ordinary parishioner.
A lot of people want to talk about that. So let's go to Bob in Trumbull. Trumbull, you are next.
Oh, Your Majesties. I think you got to look at this Pope thing on a different thing. He is going after the president because it's affecting their business model. Think about it. You said earlier that they're looking for seats in the pay and pray. So by deporting these people that would actually go and give a couple dollars, which basically is tax-free to them, it's affecting his business model, where it's...
Bob, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Bob, I have to interrupt you. Bob, did you just call worship service pay and pray?
No. That's what I call it. Take direct deposit every week out of my checkbook. So I pay so my wife can go and do her thing.
Okay. Bob, I think we have the gist there. I'll let this princess respond if she dares.
Well, actually, it reminded me of what a lot of people think was the cause of this contretemps between the Pope and Trump, in that Trump cut off the funding for Catholic charities before this all happened. It was a week before. He cut off $11 million, I believe it was, or might have been billion. And so the reaction of the Catholic Church is, I think, what the Pope met with Axelrod to respond to, because they're, you know, follow the money is always the rule, no matter what area of life you're talking about, whether it's politics or church.
Okay, thank you. Tom in Poughkeepsie, New York. You are up next. Princess, Catholic Charities.
Hello.
Money? Yes, you're up next, Tom.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Pray. Good morning.
I listen to you every Saturday morning up here in the Hudson Valley, and you have an excellent program.
Thank you so much.
Well-reasoned, well-balanced. I'm a practicing Catholic. I attend St. Martin de Porres Parish up here. Catholic parishes in the Hudson Valley are thriving. But I and other members of the Knights of Columbus, of which I am a member, strongly disagree with the Pope. No Pope is going to say they're in favor of war, but I think our Pope currently is missing the point of going to war against Iran to prevent further catastrophe. And I take the side of Mr. Trump, though I think Mr. Trump should have used more diplomatic language when addressing the criticisms of the Pope. And I would also like to hear the point of view of Mr. Bill Donahue, who heads the Catholic League on this subject. I support the Pope and the Catholic Church on theological issues, but on political issues on occasion, the Pope has an opinion like everybody else. And in this case, I think he's a little off base.
Well, Tom, I thank you for your well-reasoned approach to this. Thank you for your contribution. I think you heard loud. I would love to hear what Bill Donahue has to say, by the way, too. I often hear him speak, and he is a brilliant man. Switching gears for a minute, Duke in Sarasota, Florida has been hanging on. Duke, welcome to the Saturday Morning Extravaganza. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Just an honor to speak to you. Before I say anything, the guy from Niagara County, he was great. I got to hand it to him. Second thing, our grandparents, they're from the greatest generation. Generation will never walk the face of the earth again. Two other things. Now, I'm thinking to get away from the Pope, we're talking about rap music, and I think it's kind of harmful and derogatory to society. And I want to get your opinion. And how many of your listeners to the program today are really got a handle on rap artists or really care about rap artists who are in jail, this, that, and the other thing? And I think being a musician, the music from the 60s and 70s was so different. And now I think the music, they lowered the standards, so you don't even have to be a musician. You don't even have to know how to...
Whoa, Duke, you're opening up so many cans of worms here. Number one, great musicianship is still out there, but I agree with you. Right now, you can create stuff on your computer and not know a lick about music. All you got to do is know how to program on your computer. Yeah. Number two, is rap music detrimental? Well, that's a broad brush. Rap music is a lot of different things. Some of it is very detrimental. Some of it has been extremely positive. But you could say the same thing about rap. About rock. You could say the same thing about the drug and sex-infused music that I grew up listening to and loved very much.
Yeah.
And still love very much. Like, let's get it on.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Pay and pray. I still can't get over that. Anyway, let's head back to the telephones. Princess Diana is here. David is calling in from the Bronx, New York. David, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to say my religion is no religion. I'm not trying to hurt anybody's ratings or their faith.
No, that's your business, bro.
You know the Bible. There's a chapter, the book of Leviticus, chapter 25, verses 39 to 46. You read that, God condones slavery. So when I'm hearing someone like the Pope going around...
God condones slavery.
Trump, I agree with what Trump is saying. He should tell the Pope, shut your trap. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Okay. So let's not be disrespectful toward the Pope. That's not what Donald Trump said. And we're not going to tell the Pope to shut his trap on this show. Well, I'm not. You just did. And you have freedom of speech. But Princess Diana, so God condones slavery, huh, Princess?
I do not think there's any evidence. No, it is an unmitigated evil, and evil is never approved by God.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, David. We appreciate you very much, my brother. Just, be chill, my brother. Yo. Ina in Manhattan, you are up next. Hello, Ina. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. King of Radio and the Princess. Thanks for taking my call. No, I have a different feelings about what's going on. The Pope is a religious man. He's doing the right thing. We all see a lot of killings, innocent killings with children, old people, everybody in the Middle, in the East, both Israel do it, and they have the people them there. Now, what the Pope is for peace. I don't think Donald Trump should go and shut down their oils and stuff and stuff like that and demanding stuff from them. If he went in, he should go and help the people that the Iranians are killing and stuff like that. So the Pope is right, because he's a man of God, and God give these people those lands and make them rich. The oil, the gold.
Ina, just one question, sweetheart. Do you think it is right for the Iranians to commit terrorism all around the world? Do you think that's part of the plan?
No, that's wrong. And
that's what we're trying to. That's what Donald Trump is trying to say. Would you like to see Iran with a nuclear weapon, Ina?
No.
After all, they say they want to wipe out Israel, and by the way, death to America too, and America's great Satan. So, do you want to see them with a nuclear weapon?
No. But go for them for that. But don't shut down the island, bomb all their stuff. That's not right.
Well, we haven't bombed everything, honey. We haven't bombed everything yet. If they don't play ball, we might. We haven't bombed everything yet.
So cool.
Okay, sweetheart.
You're
I'm very
sweet man.
Thank you, sweetheart. I love you. Thank you so much, Ina. Thank you, Princess Diana. Let's get one more in here. I'm sorry, Princess. I didn't let you comment on that. Peter in Fairfield, Connecticut. You are up next, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. James. I've learned more from you and your mentor, Rush Limbaugh, than I learned in college and law school combined. So I thank you very much for being out there. The reason that I called in, I wanted to make a comment about Justice Thomas. I firmly believe that our rights do come from God, and that the government, if they were to modify our rights because they believe that they come from the government, they can always remove those rights from us. And I was born and raised in a communist country where the communist government would do that to the people whenever they disagreed with them. So thank God that we have Justice Thomas standing up for the God-given rights that we have.
Thank you, Peter. We're going to end it there. Princess Diana, you want to comment on that?
I just say my amen to that, 100%.
Well, Princess Diana, thank you so much for sticking with us for the whole hour. What a treat.
It's always wonderful, Sir James, the Duke of Democracy. Thank you so much.
I don't know whether you heard this or not, but Ina referred to me as a king, Princess.
Oh, you want a promotion now? Okay. I will take it under advisement.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you, Your Highness. Bernie Worrell, I just want to mention, we're not playing Bernie. Bernie was a composer, keyboardist. His birthday is tomorrow, passed away in 2016. He was one of the founding members of Parliament, Funkadelic. And I just want to say that because I don't want to leave here today without saying happy heavenly birthday to Bernie Worrell, who was just an amazing keyboard player. Now, we're going to leave you today with this one. You know the song, Total Eclipse of the Heart. That's because tomorrow is also the anniversary of the passing of producer and songwriter Jim Steinman. He came to fame with Meatloaf on his Better Outta Hell album. This is his most successful single, though. Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart. He also worked with Air Supply and so many others. Passed away. Tomorrow's the anniversary of that in 2021. Well, my friends, it's time for us. Thank you. Debbie Duham just referred. My Debbie just called me King James. And that has a sound to it. And you can get the King James version right here every week. God willing, of course. I want to thank everybody. Matt is just stupendous. Vincent, my crew, is just so amazing. These guys work through the night and through the early morning hours before everybody's awake to help us put this show together every week. And thank you all, everybody, all of our contributors. And Dr. Nicholas was amazing, and all my crew. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Love and gratitude for your being here, allowing me to be with you. God willing, we are back on Monday, for those of you that catch the Monday show through Friday, or back next Saturday for those of you who only hear us on Saturdays. Until we meet again, I bid you adieu.
Thanks for listening to The James Golden Show. You can hear The James Golden Show Saturday mornings at 7. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?